look in our course and make some sense of how we can use the grades, what, and engage. So if I'm looking at this, go ahead, Surya. I'll get you on Canvas. Thank you for bringing that up. So as a student, I can see syllabus, tutor me, modules, everybody that's in the class, and panorama. So what's applicable for us there is potentially tutor me if you want to go home and get online with someone one-to-one. You can use that anytime. Modules to look at what I have for that particular week, or most of what we have is over there in the to-do menu. So you don't have to look at the module so much after this week. I will update it just so you can have the list in there too. But right now, I don't have any sense of what my grades are in what I'm doing. So since all of you have attempted some sort of thing from last week, like the test on module 1 or 2 or something, right? So we all have something to look at. At this point, I'm going to launch our Canvas gradebook so that you can see those items that I want you to focus on. I've hidden the grade view so far because I didn't want you to get unnecessarily surprised by something before we really had anything substantive in there. So let me get that going here. We've got grades. So if you want to refresh your view in Canvas, now you should see grades here at the bottom, and you can click on that. And it will show you anything that you have completed in this list. Refresh your browser. Do a refresh one. Pencil? Yeah. So you can see your benchmark for the past 3 units. Looks good to me. Do you feel good about those? Do you feel good about those scores? Hmm? Yeah. So you've got one done. Looks good. And you're going to request an extension on these two. I'm going to show you how to do that in just a moment. How we looking, Jackie? Very good. So now you have that view that you can see in Canvas. That's a much simplified view of what you see in Cengage, right? You might see a score for this learn activity or that homework activity or this test and that homework and blah, blah, blah. And all those are great for practice and working on, but I don't want you to be concerned with all of those grades. Okay, these are the ones I want you to focus on for the rest of our time. Use that stuff in Cengage for practice. It's got some good tools, especially in the homework and learn sections, right? Like videos, links over to the textbook and so forth. These are more like you're preparing to test on the activities. And you're using these as a benchmark for how prepared are you in that content, okay? And your goal by the end of our time is to, on average, like if we averaged all these, be at 70% or more. If you're at that kind of benchmark, then you're ready to take that end of summer assessment. Okay. You can have a practice assessment with everything combined from all these, and then you're going to have the assessment. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm gonna kind of combine all of these into a manageable number of problems that covers all of these and call that your practice assessment. You'll be able to do that, and then we'll have your final assessment from there. On the final assessment, it's been a while since I looked at last summer's, and I might make some small changes. But since I want you to do it within the span of a class period, I would say it's going to be around 20 to 25. So it's 70% of 25 items. What is that? 80 is you get 20 of them. So you can probably get like 18 or 19 or more. Correct. Out of 25, probably. Yeah. Let's look at the extensions now. Okay. Let's go into last week's activity. Being closed. So this week's activity is what's showing up over there. Notice last week's are not. So how do we get to last week? If they're not in our menu, we click on modules and you can scroll down to one of those from last week. Like if you wanted to do module 2, you still haven't done that one, for example, click into there. And this gray button. Remember, there's always that gray button within Canvas. If you click on it from the to-do menu, there's an extra page. You click on that gray button, and once this loads in Cengage, we're going to request an extension on it. It will, from that day, give you 2 weeks forward to complete it. So this was due midnight last night. I'm going to come over here, request the extension, click on automatic, and then see I'm not penalizing you because I want you to know your full percentage score later when you do this. And then you would click on accept, close that window. Notice how it's not letting me enter right now. But after I've gone through those steps and I've refreshed my page, now they're no longer showing as blocked out. And I can enter my responses here. So that's how you do the request extension. Again, it has to be after that original due date. You click on automatic and accept and then refresh. Notice the due date for me now is pushed out a couple of weeks. Don't want you to wait that long. I want you to have a good barometer of your progress as soon as you feel refreshed enough to try it out, refreshed and practiced enough to try it out. you would go to modules from our course. Click on modules and scroll down to week 2. You'll find those links to the test from this previous week. So, mhm. Mhm. So let's talk about what, you know, we just talked about the over here part is what I want you to focus on as far as grades. Whoops, student grades. So this is what I want you to use as your kind of official barometer on grades. But I know that when you go over to Cengage and look at your grades, that you have other stuff mixed in, right? You have things that um, have been from the Learn modules, the homework assignments, in addition to the test. And so if you're looking at all of that, trying to judge, um, you know, where am I? I would focus on those tests. And do you have that page pulled up by chance? Engage, yeah. I don't have anything completed here. I'm just going to use someone from the other class as a reference. I'm saying your final grade has not been posted. Is that what you see when you're in Engage? Anybody else on Engage currently?
Doing the 23rd. But then when I click out of it, it don't be 23rd assignment, be like assignment.
Go up here for me and click on grades.
They show me like two things. It's gonna be a lot of work and show a little bit.
Yeah, so you don't see anything in Engage when you click on grades. Go ahead and click back. All those things you see that are posted as due on, yeah, like all these things you see due on the 23rd, they are to work in conjunction with what you have here. So when you see 4.1a, similar problems to what you see on the first couple of pages of this topic. Nothing's taking away from your grade. All of it is just there as modality or a means for you to practice. So you have the paper, you have those sections. You don't need to do all of those in the list. Mhm.
Okay, so these are the ones that joined in, I know.
Yep.
Okay, so
And those that you see in uh, Canvas are the ones that I want you to make sure that you do by the due date, or maybe a couple of days after. Okay. Is that clear? Yep.
See how the thing said 20 something? When I go back out and go to module, see the 20, they don't have 20 something questions right there.
Mhm.
9, 10. So which one is right? The other one said 23, 20 something question. This don't have 20. So this what I'll be doing. This right here is what I see. I don't do the one where they have like a whole, well, the other one when I clicked into it, like if I go to assignments, it'll show me a lot of assignments due for the 23rd. If I go to my assignments.
Yeah.
See, this what I do. This all the work I do.
Mhm.
But if I go to,
And then you can click on this button to see more of them if you want.
and then they're gonna show me more assignments. So I need to do all them 23 or just this little amount that I see. This what I normally do, the little amount. And then when I click to the assignments, it'll show me like more assignments, like 20 something altogether.
Mhm.
Well, that's coming up on the 23rd. See like this, see it's
Yep.
more. So which one am I?
So, like for this week, this is like the end goal that you see in Canvas, the test module 4. And in Cengage, it's going to show you everything you could potentially practice to get you ready for that module 4 test. All those that you were just showing me, like these I see here, in your page that you just showed me was kind of cut off somewhere like here. It only shows you like the first 20 or something. So you can click on the current assignment button there at the bottom to see all the sections. And I'm just using all of these, however much I need, till I feel like I'm ready to test on all of it. You don't have to. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of what we're used to in a class, right? Everything in there, got to do it. But I want you to look at this as if it's an opportunity to get more comfortable with any of these that you feel like you need more practice with. That's exactly the strategy I want you to use. Yeah. So you do however many of those you think are needed for you. And then my only ask is that you definitely do that final one, the test. Okay. Becky? What? Go to courses. Pelican Prep. Or you can click over here
Well, that's what I normally
on
use
that
this.
test.
I do about this.
So click on one of those.
You see, it says no preview, because I guess.
Oh, that's because it's a graded activity. Click that.
Yeah, I did 1, 2, and 3. I know.
Yeah,
And I did the mind sketch thing. Whatever it is.
if you've already done it, then you don't want to click on it. Scroll down some. Click on 4 for me there.
Time is for the-
Hold on just 1 second. I didn't realize that was the case. Hold on just 1 second. Let me. Refresh your page for me. Refresh. Just click on that. And to get to that specific page I was on, you go to the top where it says My Assignment. And this will show you like the first 20 or so. If you scroll down through the list, it starts with 401A. Scroll down through the list, and you'll see at the bottom the option to click on a button. Looks like it's showing you all of them. So you don't have to click on a button. But that's that view that you're asking. Yep. Okay. Are we all on a page with how to approach Cengage? I know it's a lot to kind of decipher when we plug in to a third-party publisher site like this. They give us a lot of tools. They're useful, but I want you to kind of adapt and ask yourself along the way, do I need to be looking at this section for 30 minutes more? Or am I ready to move on to the next section? Okay. Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm a perfectionist. I want to get 100 on all of them. So I know it's hard to adapt that kind of approach. But I'm glad that we're raising these questions and having this conversation because that's how I want you to use these. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So sorry if you've burned yourself out already trying to do some of this stuff, but now that gives you the motivation to kind of reframe your approach so that you don't get in that position again. Use your thinking to guide you on how much you need to do in each section. Anybody want to bring up anything from the past 3 modules before we talk about this week's? Anybody using the video recap of class? Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. How did y'all feel about that mindset activity that you did? Yeah. To get you thinking a little bit more about what I talked about that first day, about, you have the opportunity to make gains in your understanding, right? It's science, it's research evidence, that we have that our brains respond to our attempts to understand things. Even though we might not feel it in the moment, when we take breaks and then we come back to look at something again, the brain is constantly trying to expand. So remember that as a motivation along the way. And was there anything that anyone wanted to bring up from modules 1 through 3?
Question 2.
Quotient of 5, 6, and 3. This is a good recall of what we were doing last week, working with fractions, the quotient. We know to divide. So we're going to rewrite that first off as 5, 6 divided by 3. And when we have a whole number and we need to operate in terms of fractions, let's place that over 1. Then we're going to set up a division of fractions with multiplying the flip of that after the division sign. And then we're ready to multiply across. No need for common denominators, remember, for multiplication or division. We're just going to go right across to multiply 5 times 1 and 6 times 3 for 18. Yeah. So, so dividing fractions is kind of like, I don't want to say impossible, but mentally it just doesn't make sense to try to like conceptualize that or put it into some way of doing it. So instead, we transition from division to multiplication all the time. And then how do we do that? We're kind of turning that thing after the division sign on its head, flipping it, taking the reciprocal. Yeah, that's what changes when we move from division. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Right. They go hand in hand. That change to multiplication goes hand in hand with that reciprocal. let's just quickly practice one from section 4.1A. You have that guide on the front page to tell you how to label or put into words those places of a number. So let's just do number one, where on the quiz item, quiz number one says of the number 84.50397, what's the name of the 3-digit place? So it looks like, looking at the decimal here, 1, 2, 3 places to the right of the decimal, and then we can just make reference to that table. 3 places to the right is called what place? Looking 3 places to the right of the decimal. So we've got what kind of label? So this third one here, that's thousand. The reference. Yeah, it says thousand for the third one to the right of the decimal. We're not reading off from the front. We're just looking at this place here. 3 after the decimal is the thousandth place. So kind of use your decimal as your reference point. You're going this way, use your table. Yeah, the trick with the decimal side is you don't have like a 1 if you go this way with. So you start with 10, 100, 1,000 when you're going that way. Okay. Yeah, if we're looking for what this called, then we can just start from the decimal and move that way. If we were looking for, this is thousands. If we're looking for the name of the 8, what's that? That's the 10th place. The 8th digit is in the 10, yeah. So we use that decimal as our reference point, and then, the guide from there, moving left or right from that decimal to figure out what is a certain digit's name within that number. That's not going to be terribly important to be able to name them, except for when we are asked to round a number at a particular place. Then we need to know where that is. So that's why this is important. I'm not necessarily going to ask you, tell me the name of that digit. I'm going to ask you to round that number at the 1,000th place, for example. What? Yeah, that decimal kind of serves as your anchor point for where to read the number. Yeah, this number doesn't have any commas since it doesn't go all the way out to 1,000, like the one on the reference sheet could technically have a comma between the 8 and 2 on the front page. let me offer an alternative example that I think might address your question. Let's say we had so let's look at that. So we've got decimal here, comma here. So if we start going this way, we've got ones, tens, hundreds, thousands. And this way, tenth, hundred, thousand, 10,000, 100,000. Okay. Tenth first, and then, yep, ones first this way, and then tens. Yeah. Good. All right. Let's look at rounding. We'll look at the first example on 4.1b. It says 44.38128 to the nearest thousand. Okay. Round 44.38128 to the nearest thousand. So where is our thousandth digit here? Which one is in the thousandth place? The thousandth? You're telling me the 8. You got 2 8s here. Hmm? So,
Oh, thousands with the two. That's right. That's music.
everybody in agreement there that that should be where we're looking at? We're looking for the thousandth place. How many to the right of the decimal do we need to be in the thousand? How many places is that to the right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 100,000. First 8, that looks like it might be in the hundred. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. It's going to label these. They just threw out that the 1 is what we need to identify as in the thousandth place. Are they okay with that? 1 is in the thousandth place. Again, look on the front page if you need reference for how many places am I going to be past the decimal. If I'm in the thousandth place, you see a number 5 on your front reference sheet that's in the thousandth place. So that is the place at which we're asked to round. Okay. So 44.38, what am I going to report? What's that, Sarita? Two is low. I agree with your assessment there. Don't make your assessment based on what's in that digit though. Don't say the 1 is low too. Just say the 2 is low. How low? Under 5. Therefore, I just keep it at 1. Okay. So we're eyeballing this digit, making that assessment of whether it's below 5 to stay at 1. If it's above 5, we would round that 1 up to 2. Good. So there we go with rounding to the nearest thousand. Let's do to the nearest tenth. Okay. Where's our 10th place? 10th. Where's my 10th? The 3, good. Here's my 10th place. I'm going to eyeball this number next to it and say what? I'm going to move my 3 up to 4. Good. What's that to the nearest whole number? To the nearest whole number? What do you think that means? Mm-hmm. Everybody okay with that? Whole number means to look at the ones place. It's implicit. We're not going to say, rarely will you ever hear, round your answer to the nearest ones place. You'll see whole number, and let's just frame this as if it's a dollar amount. Investment banks like to do this kind of math. How can you have that many dollars? You know, but if we needed to round it to the nearest dollar, what place are we going to look at? The nearest dollar, as in like $1, for one place. So we would eyeball here again and say that is $44. So there are lots of different ways of saying, look at the ones place. Round to the nearest whole number, round to the nearest dollar, round to the nearest foot, round to the nearest mile, round to the nearest whatever the unit is. If it says that, then you look at the one place. Okay. We could say round to the nearest penny. This place. So sometimes we have to use our intuition about the context. Right? Nearest penny, we're looking at that place. Let's compare decimals. So just like we did with fractions, except now with decimals, we don't really have to find a common denominator like we did with fractions. To compare decimal quantities, all we really need to do is have a sense of where the digits are and where we see something higher. Let's look at the example where it says compare 0.257 versus 0.027 and try to judge which one is lesser than the other. So as we look at the digits, looks like they have the same 10th digit, the same 100th digit, and different third after the decimal or thousandth digit, right? So looking at those two third digits, which is higher? So that's how we assess decimals and which one's higher or lower. So what was irrelevant in this example? That digit we didn't look at, right? What? Yeah. So let's look at number 7 on the quiz item at the bottom. Says compare 0.738 to 0.72. Using that same line of thinking, if we said this digit looks the same, this digit doesn't, what would we say? What? Basically, you can start at the very left, basically. This is 0, agree, 7's agree, 3 versus 2. My 3 is greater, right? Greater. Yeah, 8 didn't play into our decision. And yeah, I mean, I was looking to see if we had any of those. So a good alternative example to what we see on the paper would be something like 45.27 versus 45.2. So then we go down the list of digits. 4s are the same, 5s are the same, 2s are the same. Uh-oh. Yeah, I have to kind of an understood 0 there. So then I can compare the two and it's this way. Yeah. I have to check my I'm gonna have to check my shed when I get home. It's gonna be water on the floor. Hopefully not. Yeah. Hmm. So some of these next sections will definitely use the calculator and kind of I'll try to discover where your questions are on calculator use. None of these that we've just talked about can be done on a calculator. You can't tell a calculator round to the nearest tenth for me. But for adding and subtracting decimals, that's where a calculator is really going to come into play, right? You've got a demonstration. What? You can use your calculator. Mm-hmm. Yep. So section 42A, you got a whole page of how to add decimals using the longhand format. And that's great, you know. I want you to glance at that, maybe do one, but that's not what I'm interested in you doing. That you see on the page there, all laid out in longhand format. I want you to take your calculator and find the sum of those numbers that it says on the first example. Sum 8.238, 19, and 7.8974. Just quickly take your calculator and take the sum of those three numbers. 8.238, 19, and 7.8974. And when you do that, I want you to confirm for yourself that you get that result.
So we just do the face. So I have the
What?
8.238.
Do your plus sign.
Oh,
Because we're taking the sum, we're adding it together. And if you're done with that one, go ahead and do this in your calculator, subtracting 8.35 minus 2.9187. You should get this. You get the 35.2.
I mean, I put in the 8.23.
You have a plus in between
Okay.
each time. Try the subtraction one. You got them? Oh. You got some application problems on, you don't have to make it a fraction. That's to show you, this last place is the 100,000th place. So technically, as a fraction, this equates to that over 100,000. Like this one ends with the 100th place, so it's 5,900.
So look, see how you learned that.
Yep. And that you can type into your calculator and get, right? So use that as your method. If you need to take a fraction to a decimal, just say the top number divided by the bottom number. 82 and 500. Again, I'm not too concerned that you know every single detail of that section. I want you to know the places for rounding purposes, mostly. Yeah. Like where is my 100th place? Where is my 1,000th place? That sort of thing. That's the real takeaway from that part A. And then rounding, is important. How you doing, Jackie, on your calculator? Were you able to confirm? Good. All right. Let's look at 4.3a. You have a application section of adding you can look at on your own. For 4.3a, we're looking at multiplication. Again, we have it in long form for our reference, but I don't want you to dwell too much on that longhand form. I want you to take your calculator and do this multiplication 0.361 times 20.7. Do that and confirm that you get this number. And then I want you to find the product of 8.16 and 10 to the 6th power. The product we're multiplying, right? 8.16 times 10 to the 6th. So on your calculator, I want you to do 10, and then use the caret symbol. It looks like a little up arrow.
Okay.
6 equal, and then times 8.18. So I just kind of talked through typing it in first. Yep. And let me just write down our reference answer here. You should see this number in your calculator. Now let's do it another way. Let's type in 8.18 times 10 caret 6. All of that and then the equal sign. Oh, I've got the, sorry. I'm going to fix what I have here so it matches what you have on your sheet. I wrote down an 8 right there. It's 6 on your paper. Sorry about that.
That didn't work. I just do 10 6 times.
Yeah.
Add it all up together like that instead of putting it in the calculator like that. And I bring it down and then multiply the 8.6.
That's perfectly good.
I don't do it on the calculator. I like plug it in my head and do it.
Yeah.
I never did like to the. Well, I need help with putting it in like the 10 to the 6 power.
Yeah.
That works for me.
I'm glad that you have that fundamental down because that's important to know that if that's what's happening when you do the caret to the 6. So let's, let's all practice plugging it in exactly like this because I want you to get used to using that exponent key. Let's do 8.16 times 10 and then use your caret symbol 6. Once you got all that in there, press enter or equal. 10. And this is that caret button I'm talking about. This caret 6. Then the equal button. Yep, equal.
I got the answer, but I did it that way.
So let's do it again. 8.16 times 10. This button here.
This one?
Yep, 6. That's 10 to the 6th right there.
Okay, 10 to the 6th.
Enter. Question? You got it? Yeah,
multiply. And that might be the long
you
way,
got the
that
right
is-
answer,
yeah.
right?
So,
We just want to know what are the other options, just in case we might want to use them later. Because say that we had like 8 to the 12th. You can do 8 times 8 times 8, 12 times over. Or you can do 8 caret 12.
I think
So,
that's what my place, I mean, well, I was have to use the calculator. They don't let you use the
mhm.
Well, when I was in school, we couldn't use the calculator.
Yeah, so you have a really solid fundamental understanding of a lot of stuff. And so part of what you and we're going to have to do is embrace calculator use and get you back on the page where you're using your tools effectively. Yeah. One thing we haven't done yet with this, let's do calculator practice on quiz item number 6 from this section. 4.3a, quiz item number 6 says to evaluate x, y, z for x being negative 2.1, y being 3, and z being 0.4. So x, y, z means times in between each of those, right? So negative 2.1, that's x, times y is 3, times z is 0.4. Let's type this in, see what we get. Everybody able to confirm that? Negative 2.52. Calculator practice right now. The negative sign is that key. Yeah,
Okay.
there you go. You type in that. So you didn't use, you could,
Yeah.
but your calculator will not respond to parentheses next to one another, I don't think. You can try it. But if you did paren 3, paren 4, technically we know that's 12, but I don't know that your calculator, oh, it does respond to that. Okay. So they've gotten a little more advanced over the years. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Multiplying everything, and not just like the negative
Mm-hmm.
0.4. Forget about the parentheses and all that.
Yeah, I'm just writing that down for reference, like to contain this number, this number, this number. But when we enter it into our calculator, all we really need in here is the key sequence, pressing the times button. Thank you, Jackie, for bringing that up to clarify this process. That's not what's going in our calculator necessarily. London also mentioned this. We don't need those parentheses. Yeah. times. Mhm. Good. So I want you, when you leave today, to go ahead and practice your calculator sequences on the division section. We're not talking about it in class, but it's 4.3b. Just go over some of those examples with your calculator, where it says find the quotient of blank and blank, blank divided by blank. And then you have an application section that you can use for additional practice. So we'll begin with 4.4a on Thursday, about halfway through our packet for this week. And what? Four point three B on division. Just want you to practice that, just like we've been doing on these with your calculator. Just go through and look at those examples, type them into your calculator, confirm the number you see on the paper. Yeah.